Spring is finally in the air at the shore. Men's lacrosse action. St. Joe's invades Monmouth right now. A very good afternoon with Jackson Heil. I'm Matt Harmon. We are set for a good regional rivalry between a team out of Philly and one here at the Shore. Jackson, a Monmouth team which has struggled as of late scoring goals, and offense has got to be our theme today. One thing you know when you play St. Joe's, you're going to have to keep pace.
Yeah, and with Monmouth lately, 6 of their last 7 games they've been held to 10 goals or less. And this is a St. Joe's team. When they are flowing offensively, they are really difficult to stop. You're not going to be able to win this game if you score less than 10 goals. This game is going to have to be played in the 13s to 15s. So we'll see if Monmouth can get something going offensively, but a really tough task today and a very talented St. Joe's team.
A St. Joe's team which comes in 5-4. Their record may be deceiving because of the games that they have lost. They have a fantastic balanced attack. He is big, he is physical, he is Levi Anderson.
6'4", 205 pounds, but he plays like he's 250 pounds full of muscle. I mean, this kid is one of the most physical Dodgers in all of college lacrosse. He reminds me of Mark Matthews from Denver, if you remember that name about 10 years ago. Big-time left-handed finisher. His hands are filthy, and when he gets time and room, he is not going to make a mistake. And we've talked about offensive struggles for Monmouth lately. One of the big bright spots offensively has been Connor McCray, and as a shooter, he has really stepped up this year. 2 goals in his last time out, but as a step-down shooter from the outside with his right hand, he has been lethal. And if Monmouth wants a chance offensively today, it's going to have to go through 19 and white.
Listen, if you had the over-under as to Jackson going a decade earlier with the mention of Matthews from the University of Denver, you should have picked the under. Anderson, McCray, our matchup today. 2 really good offensive players, and by all accounts, their numbers pretty even. I think the difference, Jackson, when you look at it, is Anderson, as good as he is, he's a part of the puzzle. McCray has become a much bigger piece of the puzzle.
And I mean, that's kind of the reality of it when you're St. Joe's. They have so many different guys who can score. I mean, Carter Page set a single season record for him last year. They are really talented in the midfield as well, but everything tends to go through Anderson. He was a 30-30 guy last year. He has really taken on more of a scoring role this year, but probably the biggest matchup of today is right here at the X.
It will be won first by Zach Cole, and a quick early opportunity and a quick early shot. Carter Page rings it up, gives St. Joe's a 1-0 advantage. Let's talk about that matchup at the face-off spot. Zach Cole, the grad student out of Lenape High School. He will be facing Matt Sutar from Lenape High School. These guys have played together. They have trained together. In essence, Sutar was an understudy to Cole at the high school ranks, and you see how quickly St. Joe's gets off the board. Cole, one of the best in the country at winning it from the X.
I was shocked to see he was a 3rd-team All-American in the midseason honorees from Inside Lacrosse, but I'd argue he's probably the best face-off guy in the country, as Sutar was able to win that one and draw a flag. But you mentioned it is such an interesting matchup because these two faced last year, and I'd say Cole got the best of Sutar, but especially early on, but Sutar was able to battle back. And you talk to Brian Fisher, if there's a guy who maybe knows Cole, it is Sutar. So should be a very fun and interesting matchup at the X. Cole getting the first one, Sutar now getting an extra man opportunity for Monmouth.
We'll throw in the fact that Luke Cole is on the Monmouth roster, younger brother of Zach Cole. So a little intricate story, and this is the situation for Monmouth. In a game like today, if you've got a man up, you are almost forced to score every time you have this opportunity.
And we'll see if they can work the ball inside. At times they have tended to get a little stagnant on the perimeter when they've had man-up opportunities this season. Caffarelli, the freshman, is one who they like to get it to in the middle as a shooter.
Was a minute penalty. We're just about halfway through it. Shot fought off by Shane Ryan, who has settled in now as the starting goalie for this St. Joe's team.
And that's been a big development for them. He's been fantastic the last 2 times out. And the Hawks, so talented everywhere. And I mean, if they're going to get really consistent goalie play from Ryan, this is a team that can be really difficult to beat down the stretch of the season.
Monmouth will turn it over as the penalty will expire.
And overall, I think it's a pretty positive man-up situation. I mean, they were moving. Caffarelli got a good look and hit the crossbar, but that's much better from what we have seen from Monmouth on the man-up in the past, where things get stagnant, the ball just moves on the perimeter. They're not able to get inside. That time they had a couple looks, take some shots, and Caffarelli with a point-blank opportunity, unable to convert.
Carter Page had the first goal. He will stay on in the attack here. This is Colin Reich to set it up, and another goal for St. Joe's.
And they can beat you in so many different ways. And this time it starts with Reich coming down the left side, and a great cross.
It's Tucker Brown.
To Brown, who was really the star of this team offensively last year. Hasn't had the same type of season they were hoping out of him, but that's where others have stepped up, and he's kind of become a guy who's flowed into this offense. And really nice feed by Reich to set that one up.
13th goal of the season for Brown. A face-off win coming for Zach Cole. A St. Joe's team that kind of, if you're going to dominate and win 65% from the face-off, coming in, Cole's numbers 172 of 263. You're not going to necessarily guarantee yourself wins in every game, but you know you're going to get extra possessions.
Especially with how dominant they can be offensively. I mean, if you're going to play make it, take it, with an offense that's as talented as the Hawks are, it's nearly impossible to beat. And Sutar's got his hands full today.
Good defensive play there, I thought, by Tommy Gray, but the flag will come out. St. Joe's will get the man-up opportunity. Monmouth Hawks, I should say, playing today without Ryan Morris, their standout defensive player. So we'll see a mix of players that get worked in there today in that spot, and it won't make things easier for this Monmouth team.
Yeah, Quig's going to probably get the majority of that big assignment on Anderson today, and a good start for him against Anderson. You have to match his physicality. In the two games he struggled this year, where he was held scoreless against Hopkins and Duke, they've been able to match his physicality and have forced him to become a feeder. And that's what Monmouth's going to have to do if they want to contain him today.
Feed inside for Page. Taken back, re-won by Monmouth. It's Jack Gertie. Long stick mini. The clear is offline. And a big check coming in for Gertie. That's going to draw a flag.
And that's just an unforced error in the clearing game. Can't have drop passes and give extra possessions to St. Joe's. And even to make matters worse, you take a penalty in the process. Talked about it when you play games like this, specifically to mention the game against Nova earlier this year, you have to win in the trenches. And that's on face-offs, the clearing and riding game, and unforced turnovers. And overall, not the best start for Monmouth in that category. A lot of time to catch up, but you can't fall behind against these guys.
Coleman will be busy today in the circle. Picked up and handled there by Terrence Lacewell, but a whistle will stop it. With the delayed penalty coming, and Gertie goes off. Second man-up situation coming for St. Joe's.
And a good save for Coleman there, a good sign. As Reich was able to create some separation from about 10 yards away, and Coleman gets his body in front of it, but you give a very dangerous man-up team in St. Joe's another opportunity. Got to look for Page on the interior. They love to find him. Has really quick hands and can get a shot off with little space.
Bomer up top. Brown had it. Tried to force it down inside for Stephen Dwyer. Grabbed in the circle by Coleman.
Good read early on. on the man down there by Greg Clark. You talked about other guys having to step up. He's certainly one of those guys today with Ryan Morris out. But another turnover in the clearing game for Monmouth. And a couple unforced opportunities, and we're going to get a timeout, I believe, from Brian Fisher. And I can't blame him. 5 minutes into this one, it's been sloppy on both ends for Monmouth.
We will take a timeout. St. Joe's off to a good start in the Battle of the Hawks. That they had hoped. A Hawk team which has seen their fortune kind of turn over the course of the last 3 weeks. A team that was 4-1, losses to Delaware, Villanova, Stony Brook, and Hofstra. And if you talk to Brian Fisher, he will acknowledge the CAA being a very good league. So you know you're going to go through the ups and downs of that. But I think you could point to the Stony Brook Hofstra game. The Stony Brook one for sure. I feel like Monmouth, in a way, thought that would be one. Let's check that box, get our first league win, and then can we get on a little bit of a roll?
And it's definitely a learning curve, but at some point you do got to win some games, of course. And Monmouth has been able to do that. But again, there's still time in the season. I don't think anyone, including maybe even Monmouth themselves, were expecting to win the CAA in year one. But part of this year is learning, and Brian Fisher knows the schedule he made, and he made it for a reason, because you knew there was going to be a step up in competition come conference play, and they have played a daunting out of conference schedule, finishing with this one against St. Joe's. So it's been definitely a learning experience for this group, and I think Coach Fisher has definitely learned a lot about himself. But one of the big things I think that's avoidable going forward is the slow starts, and we've seen that today. It's been sloppy on both ends. They've taken a couple penalties. They've turned it over twice in the clearing game. I like the timeout from Coach Fisher to kind of settle things down and hopefully let Monmouth get in this game.
You don't want unforced errors.
No.
Not in a game like this where, at least on paper, you're an underdog. You have to take advantage of opportunities.
You do, and to be fair to the Hawks, too, on Monmouth's side, I thought that they actually had a pretty strong man-up opportunity. They moved the ball around good. There was good movement. But, again, you see right here just simple things that can't happen. An unforced turnover, a drop pass by Cade Stratton, and not the best pass as well by Luke Cole.
In transition, bring it up for St. Joe's. Levi Anderson with his 27th of the year.
Highlighted him in the pregame. When you give him time to get his hands free with the left hand, he's not missing, and there's no one within a mile of him. And Anderson's going to score that about 10 times out of 10. He is as dangerous a shooter as there is in the entire country, and he makes no mistake there. No chance for Coleman.
And I think as you look at some of the roster, and we'll have plenty of time over the course of the broadcast to dig a little deeper, you are talking about potentially guys on St. Joe's who are not just good players at the college level within the A-10. You're talking about guys and Anderson and a Cole. These guys will play at the next level.
Oh, without a doubt. And both guys will excel as pros, too. That is for certain. I mean, I think Anderson could excel as a pro at the NFL level right now. I mean, he has the body type of an NFL tight end, but he is equally as skilled with the ball in his stick, which makes him such a difficult guard. I mean, it talked about the one way you can really stop him is you have to match the physicality, and not many teams have the capability to do that. So we'll see if Monmouth, as this game goes on, is able to answer the bell in that regard. But, I mean, there haven't been many teams that have been able to stop him. He's had a hat trick in 7 of the 9 games this season that he's played in, and had 8 against St. John's. So this kid is ultra talented, and Cole is obviously another guy who has been as dominant as any player in America at the faceoff X.
Anderson, 6'4", 205, grad student out of Calgary, 2-time All-NEC, which is where St. Joe's resided until this year, and the A-10 added men's lacrosse.
And you know, I mentioned that Inside Lacrosse did their midseason All-Americans this past week. Anderson somehow wasn't even an honorable mention, which is crazy to me with the type of year he's had. I mean, he's going to score around 50 goals.
Tried one from distance. That was Miles Edmonston. Not sure if it was half pass, half shot. It almost went in the back of the net.
And you know, Matt, I actually think that one might have gone in by itself if Caffarelli didn't get a piece of it. Hard to tell from the angle that we had, but he definitely altered where that shot was going. But that's 3 times now that Monmouth has turned it over in the clearing game, and we haven't even played 9 minutes yet. So we talked about unforced turnovers, and the 10-man ride, you got to give St. Joe's a lot of credit. They are a ruthless riding team. You asked Yale last year at Andy Shea when they played in the tournament. The big reason St. Joe's had a chance to win that game, and probably should have won that game if a bounce or two goes their way, is because of how hard they rode. And we're seeing that early on here from Kessler Stadium.
Shot clock to 35. As St. Joe's went across midfield and then into the offensive zone, Shane Ryan, the keeper, went over to the bench, I think, to get checked on. He was limping just a little bit. Shot offline, clock at 19.
Yeah, and like you said, Ryan is...
He's going to have to come out, I think. He's asking for a sub.
And we'll see who St. Joe's opts to go with. We've seen 4 different goalies start games this year, so the good thing about having to play so many different goalies is you're comfortable with throwing anyone in the fold when an injury arises. It's the next man up, and we'll see what ends up happening for St. Joe's. I believe it's Scott McMillan who's getting loose right now. We'll see if he's the one that ends up coming in for Ryan. But
Ryan is staying in right now, but there was an immediate move to the bench to get McMillan up and going.
And I will say the one good thing about this for Ryan is that thankfully you don't have to move too much as a goalie right now. So he can hang in there for a couple more minutes until St. Joe's is able to get a subbing opportunity. But we'll see if it affects him on this possession at all.
Ryan is a guy who is settling in as the starting keeper. McMillan, Ryan, Tommy Gross, and Robbie Seeley have all played. Most programs would love to have 1 or 2 guys that they feel worthy of a start. St. Joe's has more options than that, and their head coach, Taylor Ray, feels good about those guys in the spot. But as the season winds down, you want to probably, Jackson, find the one guy with a hot hand, and right now that guy is Shane Ryan.
And he's been phenomenal these last couple games, as this one's going to go back to St. Joe's, and we'll keep an eye on him. It looks like McMillan's racing towards the substitution box, so we'll see if Ryan's going to be able to stay in or not, but looks like he's hanging in there for now. And if there's one position on the field where you're okay losing a little bit of mobility, it's the goalkeeping position, that's for sure.
Good defensive work there by Monmouth. Grabbed by Gray in transition. St. Joe's has numbers back. Clark, wind up, tried the bounce shot. Fought off by Ryan. Picked back up by Caffarelli. 4 to go in the first.
That was a bit of a change-up. That shot got deflected on the way in. And it looked like Ryan had some trouble picking it up, but he was able to get a piece of it and knock it wide. See if Monmouth can get some production from the midfield today. They've definitely been willing to rely on some freshmen. Caden Kesserling going to get a lot of run today, as is Ryan O'Rourke. So Coach Fisher looking for a spark offensively, and he's going with some youth today to try to do that.
This is O'Rourke. Caffarelli going low. Shot was offline. Stratton there to back it up. Possession will be kept by Monmouth with 13 on the shot clock. Stratton, good dodge and good goal. Lost the helmet in the process, but Talk about a goal that was much, much needed for a little momentum.
And this is a big-time goal scorer's goal by Cade Stratton. He understands where the help is coming from and where the pressure is coming from. As you get another look, understands the help's coming from the top side, inside roll with his left hand, keeps the ball in his left hand. And one of the things that I'm so impressed with by him, just as this year has gone on, and he is always willing to take the extra step and take a hit to score a goal. You see it there, his helmet comes flying off and able to get Monmouth on the board. And also of note, now we have the goaltending change.
So Ryan going out. Scott McMillan, who played 3 years at Gettysburg, now comes in.
And he's coming in cold too, so definitely something to monitor. The one thing you don't want to do with a fresh goaltender is give him an easy first save, because that's how you can get a goalie in a rhythm. I think you ask any backup goalie who's played in their career, the one thing that can help them get into a rhythm is making that first save. And talk about in basketball, you just got to see one go through. You got to see one be stopped if you're a goalie in this situation.
Bounce shot offline, the attempt from O'Rourke. Monmouth keeps possession. Plenty of time on the shot clock at 40. Wind up goal. O'Rourke, the spark for the freshman. Monmouth has scored back-to-back tallies to make it a 3-2 game.
Really like what I've seen from O'Rourke. We saw him earlier come off the wing, able to get a step on the inside, just missed with the bounce shot. This time he fights off a check, takes an extra step to get to about 10 yards, and then adds some extra torque with that jump shot. This kid is aggressive. He doesn't play like a freshman. And he's going to be a big part of what this Monmouth offense can do going forward in the next couple years in the midfield. And how about Matt Sutar? He's done a good job at the X today. We talked about him being one of the guys who could potentially neutralize Cole. He is just as quick as Cole. I would go as far to say that. I mean, when you talk about speed and hands, they're going to be 50-50. It's can when Sutar wins it, get it to an area where he can get it himself, because that's where Cole is so dangerous. Even when he loses the clamp, he has got the strength on his lower body to always be in it for a ground ball. And we've seen Sutar able to get the better of Cole on a couple times early in this first quarter.
At least based off the roster, Cole has Sutar by about 30 pounds.
And that's going to be the case with most guys he faces. And Sutar, despite giving up the weight he does, he is tough as nails, man. We have seen him battle with the big boys this year and doing it early here against St. Joe's.
Minute to go. Ball and stick were checked away from O'Rourke. Ball stayed in, stick came back. Webb, a shot fought off nicely by McMillan.
I don't know if I've ever seen that one before. Complete yard sale, but able to catch the stick on the fly, but opportunity in transition for St. Joe's.
This game has found another level of intensity here in the last few minutes. Lance Martineau, who will also get some extra run today in place of Ryan Morris. Timeout will be taken by St. Joe's. You know, I went back to the box score from the game last year because it was Zach Cole and it was Sutar who did battle. And if you're just joining us, these are two former high school students and teammates that know each other very well, train together in the offseason. You do it that many times and work against each other, you know what each guy can do, what they can't do. Last year's in a St. Joe's win, 15-10, the faceoffs were +5 in favor of St. Joe's. What did happen, though, Jackson, St. Joe's at a halftime was up in the faceoff 13-3. Then in the second half, Sutar won 8 of 11.
And that's something that maybe Sutar made an adjustment at halftime. Well, I'm not going to say maybe. He certainly made an adjustment at halftime that he was able to figure out. But the one thing that was interesting that you made it clear of was that if you have a guy who was teammates with Cole and Sutar, which you do, you kind of tend to know what their tendencies are and what kind of makes them tick. And Sutar definitely is aware of that, not only from their time as high schoolers, but also from when they played last year. So he knows what to expect coming in this matchup. He's been prepared for it, and he has done an excellent job so far of being able to neutralize Cole. So good start for the Monmouth in that category, and you hope to get a stop here at the end of the first quarter.
Our Monmouth lacrosse game today on Flow Sports is brought to you in part by the Monmouth Medical Center and RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together. And by our good friends at Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's sub, be a sub above. With Jackson Heil, our producer-director Andrew Kurtz, I'm Matt Harmon. Good to be back with you here as we go into the last month, believe it or not, of the regular season. Final non-conference game for St. Joe's. Monmouth, after this one today, will get back into the CAA action where they will take on Hampton. It's the final non-conference game today for the Hawks as well.
And let's see what St. Joe's opts to go through here. I would expect to try to get a look for Anderson, but they have so many weapons offensively that they can really attack through anyone. It's whatever matchup that they're looking to attack. And it looks like Bomer's going to be the guy to get it started.
Trying to draw the Monmouth defender out a little bit in Edmonston. Shot, save made by Coleman. That is a big way for Monmouth to finish the quarter, knowing that they gave up 3 quick ones, rallied back for 2. A goalkeeping change has been made for St. Joe's. We're 15 minutes in, and we've got a good one for you. Hawks lead the Hawks 3-2 in favor of St. Joe's. That's as close to Easter grass as we're going to get in the back part of that picture. Oh, yeah. You see what Monmouth and St. Joe's have done against teams of the top 20 this year for the Hawks. Losses against Princeton and Villanova. On the flip side for St. Joe's, Hopkins and Duke. Those are 4, Jackson, of the best teams in the country.
And even for St. Joe's, I mean, their loss to Penn was a 1-goal game as well. That was maybe the game of the year, and Penn at the time was in the top 20. And they're coming off a big win against Yale. That was one of the games of the year. So 2 teams that have certainly been battle-tested, and St. Joe's has continued to be battle-tested down the stretch. I mean, they're 5-4, but 3 of their 4 losses have been by 2 goals or less, and the other loss was a 3-goal defeat to the #1 team in the country right now in Duke. So, I mean, this is not a team that anyone wants to see down the stretch of the season. I mean, if you're at Selection Sunday and you're a Virginia, a Cornell, a Maryland, a team in that 5 to, I'd say, 3 seed range, and you hear St. Joe's is your opponent on Selection Sunday, you will be sweating.
All 4 of their losses have come by a combined 7 goals. This will add to their total here today. Colin Reich will get the tally to put St. Joe's up 4-2.
So he had the opportunity at the end of the first quarter. They ran a great set, ran him through, got it to him behind the cage, and they were trying to run a back screen on the far side, but instead he opted to take it and was denied by Coleman on a shot right in his chest. He adjusts this time, goes with the bounce shot to beat Coleman on that occasion and extend this St. Joe's lead to 2. But this is the matchup I'm intrigued to watch as the day goes on.
Violation on Sutar will give it to St. Joe's.
And that's the one area where Sutar has struggled this year, is with violations.
Zach Cole, kind of an interesting guy too, Jackson, in some regards. He's not your typical Fogo guy. He will win it, can stay on, has added 4 goals and 3 assists into the St. Joe's attack. I don't know that he's part of the first couple of combinations, but he's not a guy that you feel like, okay, win it for us and make sure you get right off.
He's definitely a threat to score when he has the ball, and it just adds such a different element to what St. Joe's can do, because they can settle in 6-on-6 and beat you, but they also can play in transition, and it helps to have a guy who gets you the ball 65% of the time and can also lead the break and stay on the field and take advantage of of substitution situations. So it's definitely a big element to what St. Joe's does offensively.
Driving and scoring is Matt Bomer, senior from Charlotte, his 14th of the season. And after Monmouth had scored back-to-back goals, St. Joe's comes back with a pair of their own.
And we talked about Anderson being physical. He's not the only one. He lowers the shoulder right there, able to give himself enough of an angle to find a seam against Coleman. But Bomer, one of many guys who can light up the score sheet, and showing his shooting prowess from in tight on that occasion, able to get just an inside edge on Edmondson.
Face-off win, Monmouth.
And you can hear the communication there. Sutar had an advantage on the clamp from the get-go, and great recognition by Scooter Whiteside on the back. You could hear him say, back right, back right. Communicating as to where to put that, because you know if Sutar's going to go to himself after that long, he's going to be pressed. Not only from Cole, but the wings have tightened in too. So really nice communication and good wing play by Scooter Whiteside.
Monmouth will get some fresh legs in here through the midfield. Kesserling on with Carcian and Sean Ketchen. Caffarelli off target. Quick shot by the freshman out of Newport Beach, California.
He is a shooter. Not much of a dodger, but a few guys in the CAA know how to find more space to get a shot off than Caffarelli. Would like to see him hit at a higher clip than he is this season, but I think that's going to come as he grows with confidence. Just a freshman, he's been a big part of what Monmouth does offensively this season.
That one fought off by McMillan. High shot by Kesserling. If you look at the Monmouth roster, there are building blocks here. Caffarelli, O'Rourke, Kesserling, freshman. Luke Cole's a sophomore.
It's a young group. You have the veterans, obviously, with Stratton and others, but
over the shoulder flip diving for Kesserling. Shot clock at 41. Possession stays with Monmouth.
See how shifty he can be. You get the turnover from Stratton, but you get another look at this move by Kesserling, able to create the separation. Just couldn't put it in the back of the net, did everything but score. And you like to see a kid at 5'7" who certainly has to deal with some big-time horses on this St. Joe's defensive end, being willing to take a hit to try to score a goal, but unable to do so there, and now a delayed penalty on Monmouth.
3 flags are on the field. It will definitely be on Monmouth. And if we get a chance to peek at it again, would say probably an unnecessary penalty that the Hawks will take.
It's one in the riding game, just being a little too aggressive on that occasion.
Good work by Lacewell to hold out Stephen Dwyer. Save made by Coleman going up high from Anderson.
And you see Anderson there. Whenever he gets some room, he's trying to let one fly, and a good save by Coleman as we get another look at the penalty.
Coming up right here.
Caffarelli just being too aggressive, and you can see the official on the bottom of your screen. He was all over it. Another man opportunity for St. Joe's. Haven't been able to capitalize yet. We talked about Monmouth being sloppy early. St. Joe's was pretty careless with the ball themselves in the last half of that first quarter. They had 6 turnovers themselves. We'll see if they can settle things down on this man-up opportunity, but they'll start with Anderson on the crease, probably work him to the outside, and then you know the man they like to find is 62 in maroon and Carter Page.
There are 2 guys, I think, going out for Monmouth. Clearly, Caffarelli was called for something, and I think they might have gotten Stratton as well. Because right now the Hawks will play 2 men down.
Good call. I completely missed that part. And
slash on Stratton. He's out for a minute. Penalty on Camparelli, just 30 seconds. 4-man box defensively. Cannot leave Carter Page on the doorstep, and he will make Monmouth pay.
And this is too easy for Anderson. He just waits for the help to come. Just stands, waits. No pressure in the middle. And Page won't miss that one if he gets 100 chances. Canadian connection on display between Anderson and Page. 2 lethal goal scorers. And now it will remain a 6-on-5 for St. Joe's if they can win the faceoff here.
Page with a couple today. St. Joe's has regained control of this, scoring the last 3.
And they can get into it quickly here if they choose to, but penalty has expired. Back to even strength. And it feels like Anderson's been quiet today. He still has a goal and an assist in the early going.
Hits the iron, comes back out.
Good shot fake that time by William King.
You watch St. Joe's, and my first thought, seeing them up close and personal for the first time, is who do you try and stop?
That's a great question. The issue is, I mean, they'll take a timeout here, even though they probably didn't need to after that crazy play by Page, but they have so many guys on attack that can beat you in different ways. Anderson's a dodger. Page is one of the best shooters in the sport. And then there's a bunch of guys who just do a little bit of everything that surround them. Tucker Brown being one of them. Stevie Dwyer is a house at 6'4". And all of them are physical. They're physical dodgers. They are not afraid to go north-south and get downhill against you. And we've seen it on display early.
These teams have played each other a bunch of times. Remember, for Monmouth, 10th year of the lacrosse program overall. Good matchup last year, 15-10 St. Joe's, who have never been beaten by this Monmouth program. I did ask both coaches about it, and I feel like it's going to be a game that continues. It geographically makes sense. You get a non-league against a non-league where you don't have to travel too much, and you know, clearly St. Joe's maybe a step up right now in terms of this season, but a Monmouth program, you know, that's going to come right back as they have under Brian Fisher a couple of times, making the NCAA tournament out of the MAC. These games like this always seem to make sense to me.
For sure, and one thing that I don't think gets mentioned enough, especially in a matchup today where you look at a team like St. Joe's and you look down their roster, so many Jersey kids, so many Long Island kids. It makes sense to have a game here because, one, you get to have your fans come out here and get to a road game, see their kids play, and the same goes vice versa for Monmouth. There's definitely a lot of Philly kids that are probably, even Maryland and Delaware and all those options. So it's a great local out-of-conference game for both these teams, and as Monmouth continues to improve, it makes a lot of sense for both of these teams to continue to schedule this matchup.
Hit delivered by Mac McLaughlin, and now we will get a flag that will come out. I think it's going to be against St. Joe's, and we'll give Monmouth a man-up situation as they trail 6-2.
Yeah, it got a little violent there for a sec. You look at the first one. That looked like a penalty from McLaughlin. And then they got McLaughlin eventually for that second one. Could have been whistled for 2, but Monmouth will certainly take one and a man-up opportunity. It looked good on the first opportunity. Caffarelli hit a pipe. Let's see if they can continue to get the movement and open up the middle of the field for Caffarelli.
McCray. Carcian on the left. Gets it back. Burke Webb, number 33. Stratton. Wind-up shot. Save made. McMillan saw it the whole way.
Saw it the whole way and didn't have to move his stick an ounce in either direction. It's a good skip pass by Stratton. That's a shot that McCray has shown he's been capable of making. We showed it in the pregame. That is his sweet spot. That step down from about 10 to 15 yards, but on that occasion, put it right in the stick of McMillan. And this is a team, St. Joe's, we've talked about the attackmen in Anderson and Page, but their midfielders do a lot for them, and that's a great check that time by Whiteside.
Here comes Gray, off to the races. Monmouth with a 4-on-3. Numbers now reset and balance out.
And I get Gray's a long pull there, but you got to make the defense come at you before you make that pass. Key to a 4-on-3 situation is don't let one guy defend two, and on that occasion, Gray didn't force the first slide in order to open up the transition opportunity.
Stratton goes all the way through, and possession will go to St. Joe's.
And a pretty good look there from Stratton. You know he's looking to go low to high in that situation. We saw it just moments ago with McCray on the man-up opportunity. That time he was looking for Cole, who just didn't seem ready for the pass. We were talking about the St. Joe's midfield moments ago. I mean, they get so much production from that area. We talked about Dwyer with how physical he can be. But Reich has made an impact today with a goal and an assist. Tucker Brown has gotten a lot of run through the midfield this year. So many guys they can throw at you, and they come at you in waves, too. It's not a one-line team. They can throw two and sometimes even three midfield lines at you that can all score goals.
Great spin. Opens things up. Shot save made by Coleman off a rocket from McLaughlin.
King was the one who made that initial move. It opened things up for the skip pass, and Duran had the step down. Coleman's been good today. He's given up 6 goals, but again, I don't know how many you can realistically put on him. A lot of opportunities in tight. A couple wide open step downs, one coming from Anderson. But he's made some good saves and keeping this one in striking distance for Monmouth.
Has made 4 saves on the afternoon.
Let's see if Monmouth can get their midfielders involved. We talked about Stratton and McCray and how they make an impact, but they rely so much on that attack, and the midfielders open it up for them.
Here's Luke Cole. Carcian. The movement is there, but on the outside.
Stratton had a shorty there, but not a whole lot of movement allowed the switch to happen to get the pole back on Cade Stratton.
It's a shot clock violation there on Monmouth. Forces a turnover. 4 minutes to go here in the first half.
It's a good move on that clear situation by Cole Peters. Physicality of St. Joe's is just so prevalent. Their Dodgers are physical, but you look at them defensively too. I mean, Levi Virch is a 6'2" horse. They just have a lot of guys who can be physical with you, and it can be daunting at times, and I think it has been for Monmouth today.
Monmouth content to wait and get a midfield change fully complete. Webb forces one. Possession will be kept as Stratton was there.
It's interesting, they're bringing Stratton on late as a substitute here, so they're trying to catch a matchup with a short stick when he comes onto the field. They've had a couple looks, but Stratton hasn't been able to take a shot.
Carcian winds up. That comes back off the post. Webb thinking he was there. Great effort by McMillan.
There's a flag down, it looks like, too. They're getting Stratton for an unsportsmanlike.
They're getting Stratton for frustration.
Yeah.
Really is what they're getting.
You probably could have gotten a couple guys there. It looked like Webb was giving the officials an earful as well, but that's essentially a turnover. Even though St. Joe's was getting the ball in the clearing game anyway, now you give them a free clear and an opportunity with the man advantage.
Anderson back up top. Brown. Colin Campbell, number 5, working down low as well. That shot, Coleman was ready for it. Possession will be kept for St. Joe's. Just under 2 minutes to go in the first half.
And they can get Anderson activated in a couple different ways on this man-up. They can get him on the crease, or they can get him in this goal line extended area as a feeder.
Possession here for Monmouth off the St. Joe's turnover.
And that time, Anderson was somehow able to thread the needle, go cross crease with that pass. And the officials able to get this one right. And now St. Joe's goes into the patented 10-man ride. It's been so successful today.
Michael Gaughan stepped in the passing lane, but possession will be kept for Monmouth.
And just an unnecessary push by Gaughan there.
Over his head, over his head. Good, good. White time.
And I think a much needed timeout here for Monmouth. Try to settle things down and get something at the end of the half, but I mean, St. Joe's had an opportunity to really break this open. And they take an unnecessary push from behind on that ride attempt, but Monmouth doesn't seem to have an answer in the clearing game. St. Joe's all over them in every part of the field, applying pressure, and sometimes you just got to run it across yourself, and I'd like to see Terrence Lacewell do that at some point. He's athletic enough where he can run by guys, and he's physical enough where he can brush off defenders. And I know this Monmouth team doesn't have a ton of guys who maybe are equipped to handle sometimes how physical St. Joe's can be, but Lacewell is certainly one of those guys. And in the clearing game where he's forced to throw the ball over the top a couple of times, let's see if Lacewell can get more involved in that regard. Let's see if Monmouth can get one at the end of the half here. Talked a lot about their midfield having to get involved. I'd like to see it in O'Rourke's hand. He's been the aggressor in the midfield, and if he can get a shorty on him, I'd like to see him attack that matchup, but St. Joe's falling into his zone here.
About a 9-second differential between game and shot clock.
You see the chess match. Monmouth calls a timeout. They come out probably expecting man, but Joe's drops into a matchup zone.
Kesserling. That was O'Rourke, Cole, Ketchin. Shot, save, McMillan still kept on, and then Caffarelli gets run over by Harrison Oler.
That's an easy call. He took one up high there. And this was a great play by Caffarelli. It was a good save by McMillan. Caffarelli able to grab it with one hand and then get stuffed.
And not needed there by Oler.
Not at all. And that should be a 2-minute unreleasable.
I think the bigger problem there maybe wasn't the first, it was the second
one
that came in.
Absolutely right, Matt. And it not only did it come up high, it came under his helmet and right in his neck area.
1 minute.
I don't know how they came to that conclusion. That's a cross-check to the head. That's a 2-minute unreleasable. I don't know how the officials missed that one. But we'll see what Monmouth opts to do here. They can hold it and start with possession in the third quarter if they hang on to it.
I think you hold it unless you really get something that you like.
Especially knowing who's at the face-off X for St. Joe's.
Down to 5. Looks like the plan is hold it. No, we'll take it instead, says Caffarelli, and score with a second remaining.
And I think the St. Joe's defense thought the same thing there, Matt. Because Caffarelli got the ball and no one applied any pressure, and he's the best shooter on the field for Monmouth, and if he gets space like this, which he does, he's going to score in that situation, and that's exactly what he does. I don't even think McMillan knew that shot was coming either. But that's a big answer for Monmouth here at the end of the half. You get it within 3, you start believing. Game is certainly within striking distance after 30 minutes here. Big time answer for the Hawks.
That stops 3 in a row from St. Joe's. And that will take us in to halftime. That's a big last goal at the end of the quarter here for Monmouth.
Absolutely is.
6-3, St. Joe's leads Monmouth. We come back for halftime. Stick around, it's right around the corner. A pretty fun Tuesday afternoon here at the Jersey Shore. St. Joe's leads Monmouth by a score of 6-3. Good to be back with you. We are at Kessler Stadium. He's Jackson Heil. I'm Matt Harmon. Jackson, a game where right from the get-go it was a uh-oh type start for Monmouth. St. Joe's came out, scored 3 straight. Credit Monmouth, got back a couple, and then we saw another run from St. Joe's.
Yeah, and I think early on you were like, this could get out of hand in a hurry. But give credit to Monmouth and give credit to Coach Brian Fisher. He called a timeout about 5 minutes into it. They had already taken 2 penalties. Things were sloppy. They were down 3-0, and Monmouth came out and threw the second punch, which was really important. It got them back into this game. They got it to a 3-2 game, and listen, this St. Joe's team is so talented offensively. If you give them any looks, they're going to take advantage eventually. And offensively, they just have so much firepower, and they did. Levi Anderson was good. Carter Page made some big-time shots as well. But give credit to Monmouth. They hung around. They stayed in it. Got a goal from Caffarelli at the end of the half. And this one's very much in striking distance for Monmouth right now.
Yeah, and we've seen it go back and forth looking at the numbers right now. We talked about how important the faceoffs are in today's game. It's 5-a-side, which means if you're Monmouth, to your point, you're giving yourself a chance, especially in the third quarter.
Give a lot of credit to Matt Sutar because we talked about the matchup at the X being a big-time factor in this one, and he's kept Monmouth in it in that regard. when St. Joe's plays make it, take it, they're impossible to stop. And that's what they've done at a lot of times this year with how good Zach Cole has been. But you've kept them even at the X. You've given your team some chances to score, and you've kept yourself in this game. And now also you have the confidence going into the break, going into the second half, that you can win possessions and that you can keep the ball on your stick. This has to be a possession game for Monmouth. We said they can't win this game with 10 or less goals, but if they're able to dominate possessions, they might just be able to.
Final half for both in the non-conference coming up. We're going to step out here for a brief timeout. He's back on tour. He's got a home here at Monmouth as well. Nice feature coming up on the boss, Bruce Springsteen, after our break. Warmth in the air and smack dab in the middle of the last non-conference game for both St. Joe's and Monmouth. It is 6-3 in favor of the visitor with Jackson Heil. I'm Matt Harmon. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. Important, who's going to have the most possessions. St. Joe's, one of the better teams in the country. Monmouth has held their own, except for a start like that.
I mean, that sets the tempo, and those first 5 minutes was a tempo setter for St. Joe's. They got out to a 3-goal lead, but you got to give Monmouth credit. They battled back. Cade Stratton scored a big-time goal. Then the freshman O'Rourke able to net one himself. But in the second quarter, it was all Hawks for the most part of St. Joe's. That is, Reich was able to get inside, and we saw Bomer get a couple himself, and then on the man-up, Carter Page able to find the back of the net. But it was this goal at the end of the half from Caffarelli, able to get Monmouth back into it. Only down 3 at the end of this first half, and it should be a good second half.
There are the numbers. You can see Monmouth in terms of shots, +2 there. Shots on goal, both teams right there. The faceoffs are even. There's been in a lot of ways an even game. Those first 5 minutes for St. Joe's just so important in a game that in many other ways has been balanced.
Certainly, and I think a lot of coaches, they focus on first 5, last 5 of each half. Can you win the first 5 minutes and really set the tempo for how this game was going to go? And I think these first 5 minutes of the second half, as important as any 5 minutes, will have the rest of the game, and it starts at the X. Sutar and Cole, they split in that first half 5-5. We just saw them give each other a fist bump, sign of respect between these two former high school teammates, but should be a very fun battle at the X in the second half, and it starts right now.
Monmouth in white, St. Joe's in the reddish maroon and black. Monmouth wins that one. Hawks will start with possession and see if they can cut into a 3-goal deficit.
Yep, and trying to convert at the end of this extra man opportunity. It was a 1-minute unreleasable penalty at the end of the half to Oler. And now back to even strength. Took a little too long to get their substitution pattern completed to really get a full opportunity in the man up, but smart job to settle down, have a good long possession to open this half and see it can convert.
Possession to St. Joe's.
And I like the idea there from Carcian, but he's got to take one more step to really set up that question mark, because when you're going to go to the outside, you know when your right hand, you're going to be going away from the net and cutting off the angle. You got to get one more step. You got to get at least to 5 yards. Rob Pinnell was the master of that move. Would get to 5 yards, open himself up. Carcian didn't do that there. A real nice job by Michael Quigg there. Gaughan looked like he had a step on him, but Quigg matching the physicality. Overall, did a pretty good job on Levi Anderson in that first half. He had a goal and assist, but the goal was a transition opportunity where he was forced to slide off the ball.
Lucky bounce in the pickup for Page. Just right place, right time.
And all the great goal scorers seem to find themselves in the right place at the right time. And this was a nice job. Quigg able to get a stick on the shot, but it was a miscommunication in the slide there, because Quigg had recovered to Anderson, the shooter, but there was still help coming from the crease where Page was, and he was naked on the doorstep for the easy dunk.
Win for Cole. You can see Page, one of the best in the A10. You know, that was something I asked Taylor Ray about after years of being in the NEC, capped off with a championship and an NCAA tournament bid last year. He said the same thing, and I'm familiar with it because I've heard it from Monmouth coaches over the course of the last couple of years. It's nice to now have the A10, have men's lacrosse, because you're playing the same teams that everybody else in every other sport is playing.
And think about, for a lot of teams, the travel gets screwed up when you're forced to play in a different conference. And the NEC, it wasn't as bad for St. Joe's because it is a lot of Northeast teams, but it is nice to be involved in a conference where essentially you do have a lot of teams that you're playing in these other sports. But even the A10, I mean, it is still a little jumbled if you look at their schedule. I mean, they still have to play High Point, which is a bit of a far trek for them, and they're not a typical A10 team. I believe High Point is SoCon for the most part. But as lacrosse continues to grow, and as these teams and these schools continue to add lacrosse, you got to start somewhere, and the A10 will certainly continue to grow. I mean, it's only 6 teams right now, but it's going to continue to get bigger as these other schools in the A10 begin to add lacrosse. I mean, you have the UMasses and the St. Bonaventures and the St. Joseph's of the world. You got to hope maybe some teams down south, like a VCU maybe adds lacrosse, or teams like that are local that you hope maybe will continue to grow their athletic profiles.
St. Joe's won their A10 opener over the weekend against Richmond 14-12. Shot clock violation there on Monmouth. St. Bonaventure, Hobart, UMass, and High Point, the teams that they will see over the next couple of weeks.
And Hobart, one of the other teams that jumped over from the NEC. That was the NEC championship game a year ago. St. Joe's took it to Hobart early and often in that one, but Hobart's another up-and-coming program. Good to have them as part of the A10 as well, and I'm sure that conference will only continue to expand. But like if you look at the teams that are typically in the A10, it's only 4. It's this team, St. Joe's, Richmond, which has been a real nice program these last few years, and then St. Bonaventure, new lacrosse program, and UMass, obviously. So it'll continue to grow, but it's a good start and a good year for the conference as well.
Driving towards goal and scoring is Bomer. And St. Joe's has answered the bell here in the third.
Talk about Bomer taking that extra step to make sure he gets to angle. He takes the hit from Martineau on that occasion. And he's feeling the after effects of it, but he's got a goal to show for it. You got to be willing to take a hit to make a play, and St. Joe's no stranger in that category.
Sutar wins it for Monmouth. Probably about at that point where if you're Monmouth, you're a little concerned, down 5 in the third, having this deficit get any bigger.
Yeah, especially with the way they've struggled to score goals this season. You feel like the next one has to go Monmouth's way. And let's see if they can get McCray involved. He's been awfully quiet today. Hasn't really looked to create his own shot, but now Stratton has a shorty on him.
O'Rourke. Kitchen. Throws behind McCray. McCray, wind up. And Connor McCray's day of frustration continues. It's McMillan to make the save.
And he's had a couple looks from that same area. That one, much more difficult shot because he's going away from the cage. it's right in the stick of McMillan, who has been excellent today. Little uncertainty after Shane Ryan went down in that first quarter, but McMillan has stepped up and answered the bell. 7 saves already in this one.
Flag coming out. Goal will come. Page has another.
And he's not going to miss many from there. Good cross field pass. And look how Page takes the extra step up high to create the separation. You want to get to that 5-yard spot because it makes the job for the goaltender so much more difficult. If he stays with about 2 yards over goal line extended and takes that shot, there's not much of an angle. It makes it an easier save for Coleman. Instead, he takes the time, knows where the space is, and that he has the time to take that space. Able to bury it past Coleman. The Canadians, what they have such a great understanding of is angles. And they know they can shoot from pretty much any angle because of their box background. And Page played 3 years of box lacrosse growing up in Ontario.
Karsianov for a minute with a cross check. Another flag came out.
How about the job Sutar's done? And listen, it's a 6-goal deficit, and it's a really good opponent in St. Joe's, and no better opponent to go up against at the face-off X than Cole. But Sutar has answered the bell today, and he has gotten the better of Cole, his former high school teammate today, and hasn't been really up for debate. He's won 8 of the 14 face-offs thus far. But give St. Joe's credit, showing they can win even without controlling possession, even though it's such a big part of what they do.
St. Joe's grabs it back. Patrick Clemens on the loose ball.
And that's a turnover that just can't happen. You're waiting to kill off the rest of your penalty. You know you're going to get a man-up chance. They're able to get it back and catch a break and draw another flag in the process.
Getting a touch sloppy with some penalties here with 7.5 to go in the third.
And St. Joe's hasn't been at their best today. They've been sloppy turning it over, and I think they just took another penalty going off sides here. See if they are able to catch that one.
Low shot attempt by O'Rourke.
I don't know if they're going to get, but Anderson clearly went off sides there. He, instead of going directly out of the box, he ran across the midfield line and then to the substitution box.
1 minute cross check on Bomer.
Yeah, the officials missed that one. But nonetheless, still 6-on-5 coming for Monmouth. We'll see if they can convert. They got to keep it moving around quickly. And we saw in their last man up, Caffarelli was able to convert when he got some space. He's the one they want to get it to as a shooter. But it's not really on the interior. They've been bringing him out and trying to just attack the 3-on-2 corner situations and get him the ball on the wing for a step down.
That shot fought off by McMillan.
So they got it to Caffarelli in that spot where he stepped out. The pressure came early, though. Made a really nice face dodge to get by his defender, but again, he's got to take one more step. Learn from Carter Page there. Saw what he did before. get to the middle of the field instead of allowing McMillan to take away half the goal for him. If you take that extra step to glory, get to the middle of the field, then you give yourself a much better chance of scoring in that opportunity.
St. Joe's in control here with 6 to go in the third. They lead 9-3. Shot by Page offline.
You can hear Anderson yelling out for a shorty. But on the shot, they're able to get the switch.
It was deflected out, so it will stay with St. Joe's.
Page is just always cutting. That time a moving screen will get it back to Monmouth, but he's constantly moving. Carter Page, one of the best goal scorers in all of college lacrosse.
Turnover for Monmouth.
And now Anderson has the shorty.
Good help coming in by Quigg. Catch, spin, and shoot just a little bit offline by Cole Peters.
And Page himself is not much of a feeder, but we saw him there. Looking to the middle to Peters, who had a good look, but one thing about this St. Joe's team offensively, they all like to keep it in their strong hand. And that's definitely a Canadian trait.
Great save by Coleman.
Great save. Real nice job by Brown, able to create the separation. When he winds it back and lets it fly, he gets a lot of velocity behind his shot. Coleman stepping to it, low off stick, getting in front of it for the stop.
Low shot off the ground, and Page has another.
That's a ridiculous goal. You get another look at it in a second, hopefully, but it's one where he puts it in his right hand, underhand bounce shot with one hand on the stick. So get another look. Look at this feed. Catches it with 2, puts it in 1, and a high bounce shot over Coleman. Just ridiculous talent from Carter Page, who was put on a show today. And you see just how talented this team is offensively for St. Joe's. And they've had some defensive issues, but when Page is on fire, there's no stopping him. So you get another angle of this. Look at him switch to the right hand. And the crazy thing, I don't even think he meant to bounce that. I think he was trying to get a little low to high action with one hand, but sometimes great goal scorers get the benefit of the doubt, and that's what happened with Page there.
5 goals on the day and an assist for Carter Page. His total's 32 and 4 on the season. Last year he went 51 and 5.
Single season program record. Really put St. Joe's on the map a season ago and won the NEC. Took Yale to the wire in their first round game. Led for a majority of it as well. And we talked about it before, but there's not a team on Selection Sunday that wants to be matched up with these guys. They are so dynamic on this side of the field. And they have the ultimate neutralizer in Zachary Cole at the face-off X.
Crossfield pass for Monmouth, taken away by Trey Ica.
And how many times have they forced a turnover in that 10-man ride? They have given Monmouth fits all afternoon long in the clearing game. And this is a guy who I think they need to get going down the stretch, Brown. Could argue he was their best player a year ago. What he did from the midfield. Obviously, Anderson had a monster year with a 30-30 season, but Brown was a superstar a year ago.
43 goals and 11 assists, all NEC player. Loose ball picked up by Levi Birch.
And he's slowly showing signs of getting back to that type of player. Not sure if he was banged up earlier in the year or just things haven't gone as planned, but I think one of the differences really is when you move Levi Anderson to attack. He was playing a lot of midfield last year. You really add the onus in the midfield. On Brown. He has struggled at times with it this year, but again, they have a lot of talent down the depth chart that they can use. It's not just a one-line team like it talked about. They can go 2 or 3 lines deep in the midfield. And yet again, the 10-man ride forcing a turnover on the errant shot from the length of the field.
Timeout has been taken. We will take a break as well. St. Joe's in charge with about a minute to go in the third. Our Monmouth men's lacrosse broadcast on Flow Sports and the Monmouth Digital Network, brought to you in part by World Subaru. Get more for your money at World Subaru. And by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, great Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. 62 seconds remaining in the third on a glorious Tuesday afternoon, a mile away from the Atlantic Ocean, the Monmouth University campus in West Long Branch, New Jersey, with Jackson Heil and producer-director Andrew Kurtz, the rest of our entire crew on the Monmouth Digital Network. I'm Matt Harmon. Good to be back with you. St. Joe's in the black and red, taking charge here in the third quarter. They have scored 4 goals. Monmouth has not found the net in this third. St. Joe's up by 7.
And they haven't exactly done it in the way you'd expect them to, Matt. I mean, we were just talking off air. If you told me Monmouth was going to win the face-off battle today and be down 7 goals, I think a lot of us would be surprised. And give credit to St. Joe's defense. They've been outstanding in forcing turnovers, and offensively they have really started to connect in this second half, specifically Carter Page, who's got 3 by himself here in the third quarter, 5 total in the afternoon.
Game clock to 20. St. Joe's with one last run towards goal. Shot off line. It was a rocket from Aiden Clark.
This is a good matchup. Anderson against Quigg, and look at Quigg match the physicality.
Anderson tried to flick it towards goal. That'll take us to the end of the third. St. Joe's trying to pick up their 6th win of the season. Back here for the start of the fourth quarter. 4th and final quarter. All these teams will turn their attention, both Monmouth and St. Joe's, back into their conference slates come this weekend. It's a win by St. Joe's to begin the 4th.
Cole's won the last couple.
Anderson from distance, offline.
Definitely a bright spot defensively for Monmouth has been Quigg today. He has done a great job on Anderson, making life tough on him every time he's touched it. And I mentioned the way you stop him is you have to match the physicality and force him to be a feeder. And that's exactly what Quigg's done today. Only the one goal early in transition, where he wasn't even the primary defender. He was sliding, but he has done a really nice job on the 6'4" Canadian.
Catch and save. Shot was taken by Bomer. Went off the right leg, it looked like, of Coleman.
Here's an adjustment to Carter Page with Lacewell on him, the short stick. Page is a great shooter, one of the best goal scorers in the sport, but he's not much of a dodger. And I'm surprised more teams don't try this maybe earlier.
Bounce there by Page. Bounced it too early, and Monmouth will get possession. Thanks to Lacrosse TV for picking up our broadcast today as well.
Let's see if Monmouth can find a way to break this 10-man ride. Has been so effective today, and they draw another turnover. But it's going to go back to Monmouth on the push. But again, like, it's like 4 or 5 times in a row where we've seen this 10-man ride really give Monmouth trouble. And at some point, the best way to break it for me is just having an athletic midfielder do a one-man clear himself. And they have a guy who can do that in Terrence Lacewell. He's 6'3", he runs like a deer. They need to get him the ball in these situations and let him go.
There's a push. Monmouth keeps possession.
And the stats say Monmouth's 14 of 17 on clears, but they're also getting credit for a couple clears where they've taken a shot from distance to try to hit the empty net and have been beaten to the backstop. And that's happened about 3 or 4 times. So you can count about 6 or 7 turnovers in the clearing game.
That shot goes from Webb right into the midsection of McMillan.
And it's a real credit to St. Joe's for how hard they ride. They take pride in it.
Michael Gahn will turn it over. Possession back to Monmouth.
See, where are the midfielders? Someone's got to come back and help the ball.
Long throw ahead. McCray unable to get it. McMillan comes out of the cage to help regain possession. Long run forward on the pole for Virch, who will score.
And it all starts from the turnover on the ride. And Virch, no one touches him, no one picks him up. And he's able to put it right by Coleman, but it all starts with the ride, forcing the long pass over the top. McCray unable to handle it. And Levi Virch nets his 3rd goal of the year. But the 10-man ride has become a staple in college lacrosse.
Low shot by Stratton. McMillan going down low. He's played well, McMillan, since he came in for Shane Ryan.
Certainly has. I mean, 9 saves on 11 shots. kept them in the game, honestly, in that second quarter. Kept them in the lead. This could have easily been a tie game at halftime. And St. Joe's has really upped the ante here in the second, but he has been excellent today in place of Ryan. And you hope he's okay. Sutar has given Monmouth a chance today at the X. He's gotten the best of Cole, not by much, but certainly has. But the struggles offensively for Monmouth have continued.
Kesserling, another save by McMillan. Kesserling will draw a penalty. Going to be a slash, and we'll send out Matt Popek.
Kesserling, we've seen him do this a couple times. Get the inside step. And again, he's one of those guys that is willing to go to the dirty areas to try to score. On that occasion, he did so.
Carcian thought about it. McCray inside gets forced to Cole. Luke Cole, who can't keep possession.
And one thing interesting St. Joe's does when they're man down, I'll mention after the shot. Good save.
Popped high in the air. Good look there for Coleman.
Coleman's made some good saves today as well. But one thing St. Joe's that's very interesting that they do on the man down, whoever is on the outside on that far side wing, they are denying completely. And we saw a couple times, we saw him switch off, whether it was Stratton or Ketchen. But whoever was on that far side wing was getting denied completely. And when Ketchen ran outside the box, it essentially became a 5-on-4, which to me is advantageous in most cases for the offense because there's more space on the field. You have less defenders, obviously, but I'd always prefer to have a 5-on-4 than a 6-on-5 because when you have the 6-on-5, it's more crammed. But if you keep doing the interchange, it makes it difficult to really get into a flow and a rhythm on that 6-on-5, and that's exactly what happened. Ketchen and Stratton kept alternating, and whoever would go to the outside, they would just send someone to deny.
Another goal for St. Joe's, and it's another highlight reel finish for Carter Page.
What can't this kid do, man? And we talk about guys who are going to play at the next level. This kid is going to. Look at this move. One hand with the left over Coleman. That is ridiculous. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap. It's good defense by Quigg, but Page is that dude, man. And these Canadians are something special. The box lacrosse background makes such a difference because these guys know how to shoot from every angle. They like to keep it in one hand. A lot of times it's lefties. For example, Levi Anderson being one of them. But Page loves to keep it in his right. And as a guy who grew up watching a lot of Cornell lacrosse, Danny Littner comes to mind as a comp, but Page is bigger than Littner was. The hands are similar in terms of they are great in tight areas, have such a great understanding of spacing, but they love to keep it in that right hand, and when they get it, they tend to convert. But we've now seen Page score on a one-handed right-handed shot and a one-handed left-handed shot.
Monmouth in transition. Wind-up shot from Brandon Rispoli offline. 12-3 our score.
And this Joe's team is going to be interesting. Not only down the stretch, but next year as well. I mean, Page will likely come back. The thing is, you never know what happens with the transfer portal nowadays. Now, with the COVID extra year and everyone being able to be a first-time transfer without having to sit out a year, you never know who's going to stay and go as Caffarelli's hurt.
And to be fair, looking at the roster, because of that COVID year mixed in there, and as you said, the transfer portal, it might say senior, but that doesn't mean that your eligibility is up yet either.
I mean, look at that Maryland team from a year ago. I mean, it was 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds. It's grown men out there. And it makes a world's difference. I mean, just from a college perspective, that San Diego State team last night in the national championship game, I mean, their starting five was older than 5 different NBA starting lineups. It's definitely a different game post-pandemic and in this new era of the transfer portal.
Webb tried to catch and shoot, didn't get all the way through. Stratton picks it up. Monmouth resets with the shot clock winding down again. Stratton trying to go low will draw a penalty.
This defense has made everything difficult, though, for Monmouth as we get another look at Stratton. He has been the one guy today, and I'll give Kesterling that as well, who has been willing to answer to the physicality that St. Joe's has brought on this end of the field. Stratton has tried to get to those dirty areas. We saw him try to do it right there. Not afraid to get pummeled on the interior to try to score a goal.
Man-up situation here for Monmouth for 30 seconds on a push from Joe Burnham.
And you saw the turnover there, but it's caused by the pressure that St. Joe's is applying. And Cole Peters has been the one. Talked about it before. They're denying that far side wing. This time it was catching going behind the net, in which Peters was denying essentially and pressing out. And they tried to throw the pass to him, but unable to get anything going. And
big goal coming forward. St. Joe's will make it 13. Owen Mihok.
Just beating his defender down the alley. No help to the interior. And what a second half it's been for St. Joe's. Complete domination. And they've reeled off 7 unanswered since Caffarelli scored with 1 second left in the first half. This team is really dangerous. And now they're going to go down the depth chart a little bit. Reward the guys who have all year brought energy on the bench. And you've heard them all day long, too. Every time they've gone into the riding game, they've brought noise. They have tried to bring chaos. And now getting rewarded with a chance on the field. Down the stretch of this game, try to get their name on the score sheet.
St. Joe's earlier this year, a couple of big wins. Beat Sacred Heart 17-5 and Providence 19-6.
I mean, we talked about their losses and how close they've been. I mean, 1 goal lost to Hopkins, who is certainly going to be in the tournament field right now. They're a top 10 team. Lost in overtime to Penn, who you'd think probably gets in. They've had a couple tough losses themselves, but with the way the Ivy League's trending, you think that they have a chance to run the table in the Ivy League. until the tournament comes around. They already got Cornell and Yale out of the way, but they took them to overtime. The Drexel loss is a tough one. They gave up 18 goals. And then the Duke game, they're the #1 team in the country right now, and they were still able to battle to the final whistle and keep it a 3-goal game. So you'd think they're the favorites out of the A-10 right now. Richmond is a tough opponent too, but they were able to win the first meeting, and that A-10 tournament's going to be very interesting down the stretch to see how it unfolds.
Taylor Ray, the St. Joe's head coach, 2003 graduate of Duke. He has created a solid program here at St. Joe's, fresh off an NCAA tournament bid a year ago in his 12th year.
Yeah, and I mentioned a couple times that was one of the great games of that tournament. Yale, St. Joe's first round. St. Joe's came out flying. They ended up losing 18-16, but he gave Andy Shea's team everything they could handle. And like I said, they are going to be a team that no one wants to play when Selection Sunday and the NCAA tournament rolls around.
Man up for Monmouth. Penalty was on Colin Campbell offside. Wind-up opportunity from Kesserling. 3 seconds on the penalty.
Matt, how good has McMillan been today, though? I mean, 10 saves now on 12 shots in relief. You can't ask for much more from your goaltender, especially one who didn't even start the game, was thrown into action. Just a really impressive performance.
Came late in the first quarter, gave up a couple of goals, including the one at the end of the first half where you felt like, okay, is that a little bit of momentum that Monmouth can carry into the second half? And full credit to the Hawks of St. Joe's, who have outscored Monmouth 7-0 in these 2 quarters.
And St. Joe's has gotten better as the game is going along, too. I mean, the first quarter overall was sloppy on both ends. I believe there was 13 total turnovers between the two teams just in that opening frame alone. It's now 19 turnovers apiece, but it's been a real valiant effort from St. Joe's. And I've talked about the riding game all along, but I mean, they've only been credited for 4 turnovers forced in the riding game, but it's felt more like 8 or 9. And just a really impressive effort by St. Joe's. And for Monmouth, it's back to the drawing board. I mean, listen, 5 straight losses doesn't really paint the picture for this team, because you look at the competition they've faced as we get a look at the standings in the CAA. Delaware and Drexel, along with Stony Brook, all at 3-0. And then you get a look at where Monmouth is at 7th. You hope they can get that first win over Hampton this weekend. But this is a game you wipe the tape on. You move on, and you see if you can try to generate some momentum next week going into your final stretch of the season. And it feels crazy to think that we're already in the final stretch of the season, given that this is really the first really nice day of the year outside. But with how early the season starts nowadays, it's a different ball game. But I think this is probably the most frustrating performance of the season for Monmouth, just in the way that things transpired, because they were in it early, but then they really just got killed in the clearing game. And St. Joe's really turned the game on its head from there, because in a game where Monmouth is competitive at the face-off X, you expect them to be potentially in this game when you look at the numbers, but the unforced turnovers and the clearing game has let them down today.
Minute penalty on Virch for unnecessary roughness. Goes past O'Rourke. Onto the offensive half. Here's a penalty coming on Monmouth. Cole Dawkins will go to the sideline.
That had potential disaster written all over it. Forte was coming in hot, and I don't think he saw Dawkins. We get another look, and Dawkins just laying the body. Wasn't too dangerous of a check. He really just stood there and let his shoulder kind of go into his chest, but nonetheless, 1 minute in the box for Mr. Dawkins.
Goes as a cross check.
A lot of penalties in this game. 9 for St. Joe's. And now 7 for Monmouth in this one, so. Definitely a physical contest this afternoon. Some frustrations boiling over for the Monmouth side, but it's one game I think you bury the tape on and you move on to Hampton. As Coach Belichick once said, we're on to Cincinnati. And in this case, Monmouth is on to Hampton. Carter Page was trying to get another highlight reel goal there on that behind the back shot that went right to the back of Tommy Gray.
Flag coming out.
I believe this one's going to be an offsides. Will be the 10th penalty of the day for St. Joe's. I mean, you tell, if you told St. Joe's before this game you'd take 10 penalties, you would be pretty much even on face-offs, and Levi Anderson would be held to 2 points. I don't think you'd think you'd find yourself up 10 goals in this game, but everyone has stepped up for the Hawks from Philly.
Half minute to go. McMillan with the catch.
And we talk so much about this St. Joe's offense, but they've held Monmouth scoreless in this second half thus far. I mean, with 30 seconds to go, we'll see if Monmouth can get one, but a dominant defensive effort on the defensive end. I mean, so many guys have stepped up. We saw Levi Virch get a goal himself, but he's been excellent defensively. Joe Burnham and also their midfielders have been a big part of the equation, especially in the riding game. 10-man ride takes commitment from all 10 guys, just as it sounds.
St. Joe's on the turnover. Monmouth with that man up. A roll towards goal and a score, but it will get waved off.
St. Joe's offsides on that one. Wipes out a really nice move and goal by Campbell.
That will take us to the end of our Tuesday afternoon affair here in West Long Branch. St. Joe's will improve to 6-4 on the year. Monmouth will fall to 4-6, and both teams will turn their attention back to conference play.
Yeah, I think for Monmouth, I mentioned it a couple moments ago, but it's a bury the tape game. I mean, there's a really talented St. Joe's team they come at you in different ways. I thought they played a pretty good first 30 minutes. They were in the game. If McMillan doesn't stand on his head in that first half, maybe things go differently, but St. Joe's came out firing in the second half, and Monmouth really never able to regroup offensively, and that was that. But for St. Joe's, good way to go into 8-10 play. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with down the stretch of this game as you get a look at the final stats. And I mean, I think for the most part, Matt, you look at the final stats, I mean, pretty much split on face-offs, turnovers even. It's not a game where you think, you look at the stats other than the score, then it would be St. Joe's winning this one by 10, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, and that's exactly how it did today.
Monmouth back in action on the road at Hampton this coming weekend. St. Joe's will look to get themselves back into conference play. They will go to St. Bonaventure. For producer-director Andrew Kurtz, my partner Jackson Heil, I'm Matt Harmon. We say so long from West Long Branch, New Jersey, on the campus of Monmouth University. Your final score, St. Joe's 13, Monmouth 3. Flow Sports is your home for live and on-demand CAA sports coverage all season long. Visit flowsports.tv/CAA for more information. Always good to be part of the coverage on Lacrosse.tv today as well. This has been a presentation of the Monmouth Digital Network. Enjoy your holiday weekend coming up.